Hello everybody, welcome Hypno Buddies back for another episode of Chaos Head Noah. Well, I hope you caught the last episode because this episode is part 2 of the Kozue ending. We will be continuing on, and this episode is quite the doozy. This episode goes pretty ham, so I hope you are caught up. And I am just going to leave you to it because this episode, well, let's just get right into it. She's going to have to make her peace with mirrors at some point during this route. I ran after Kozue, but I had taken too long to do so, and now I couldn't see her anywhere. I hadn't said anything to her about wanting us to leave together, but she was the only person I had left. Losing her started to make me freak out, and I could feel the anxiety slowly welling up. Being all by myself, especially in the center of Shibuya, I really didn't like it. The mere sight of the human stampedes moving along caused sweat to bead all over me. So knowing I couldn't take it, I gave up on trying to find Kozue and decided to hurry back to my base. What was that? I'd heard something. The loud clicking sound of a camera shutter. Who around there was a guy with a camera. Didn't the guy who had the rucksack, who had Nanami almost walk into traffic, didn't he have a camera? I shifted my gaze toward the sound, but I couldn't see anyone with a camera. Are they facing away from us? That was when I realized, oh, the sound hadn't been an actual camera, but a cell phone. That explained why the sound had been so clear. Do cell phones make that sound when they take a picture? Mine doesn't do that. And yet, despite that realization, I still couldn't locate anyone that was pointing a cell phone at me. Who said they were pointing it at you? Was I just too on edge? No, that couldn't be it. My social suicide would have been incredibly well known throughout Japan, especially considering how much people freaked out over espers. So it wouldn't have been all that strange if there were people who found it amusing to snap random photos of me. The streets were overflowing with people. Well, at least none of them were looking at me. Don't look at me. I was about to joke that. Biting my lip, I continued dragging myself forward. I hung my head as low as possible so as to not be recognized. I need to buy a hoodie. There it is again. Yeah, what's up? There it was again. Someone had taken a photo of me again. And this time I knew for a fact that I had felt their gaze on me. And it wasn't the usual God's gaze, but a gaze harboring nothing but pure malice. Am I going to get a sprite for this person at some point? I looked around, and yet after all that, there was still no one there. Is Kozue going to hear all this anxiety and thoughts and come back and have to cut another person? Who the hell are you, sneaking photos like a goddamn peeping Tom? I'll sue the fuck out of you for violating the rights to my likeness. But it wasn't like they were ever going to hear me cursing them out inside my head, and I very much didn't have the courage to say it out loud. Yeah, Japan has some interesting laws, very different and more restrictive than they are in North America when it comes to recording and picture taking and streaming, even in public. But it wasn't like they were going to hear me cursing them out inside my head, and I very much didn't have the courage to say it out loud. Even if I did, it'd only bring even more attention to me. I went back to walking. This time I doubled my speed, weaving as best I could between the herds of pedestrians clogging the road. Snap. Yeah! Okay, nope. That's many snaps. I joked that there was going to be a snap, but that was not what I was expecting. The sounds only got worse. The shudders continued to chase me. Then I thought I heard someone giggle. Well, they found out how to torture us the same way they torture Kozue. I looked around again. There were a number of people holding their cell phones at eye level. A middle-aged businessman, a woman in a suit, a high school boy, and some DQN girl. A pretty varied selection. Just like the people with the mirrors. As I moved, they would move their phones in an attempt to follow me. Don't look at me. Don't take pictures of me. I couldn't take it anymore, so I took off running in another direction. But, even more, it didn't matter how long I ran. It didn't matter how far I ran. It didn't matter how many people I threaded the needle through. The sound always found me. The gaze always caught up to me. Every time I thought I got away from the noise, it always started up once again. In my head, it was like my enemies were multiplying without end. Eventually, I ran into a red light, forcing me to stop. Planting my hands on my knees, I tried as best as I could to catch my breath, all while the noise of the shutters persisted. My gaze trained downward. I clenched my fists as I tried to stomach the humiliation. That was really all I could do at this point. Suddenly a thought occurred to me. Was that noise really being produced by such a large, unknown number of people? Wouldn't they all be taking way too many photos? Sure, I was basically a celebrity now, but I wasn't famous, I was infamous. Photos of me wouldn't be worth jack shit. I'd say most people considered me to be a walking piece of trash at this point, so I couldn't get over how strange it was that the world had picked today of all days to start taking all these photos of me. And they weren't even hiding it either. Was it Shogun? Was he orchestrating this attack on me right now? Just leave me alone already. What the hell have I ever done to you? What the fuck is your problem? I want to kill him. Urge to kill rising. After breaking me completely while he watched from the shadows, he was finally going to kill me once and for all. This malicious harassment wouldn't be enough. I would be in the new next-gen case, murdered in some horrible, grotesque fashion. Therefore, I have to kill him before he kills me. Yeah, I'm guessing Kozue is just hanging out on the periphery hearing all this. She's going to jump in, isn't she? I grabbed my head with both hands. I had a pounding headache. And yet, despite it all, I still didn't feel God's gaze. Despite the countless photos being taken via cell phones, Shogun's typical gaze wasn't following me at all. I want to kill him. And suddenly they stopped. Suddenly everything went quiet. The rapid snapping of camera shutters completely disappeared. I turned around and there was a sea of blood with Kozue standing in the middle of it. Surprised, I started to look up. Oh! Oh! Okay. Only to hear a sound that I had heard many times before. Right behind me, within the silence. Oh boy. Kozue's got your description. You better hope she's not around. Right behind me, within the silence, came a quiet creaking noise that I would never have heard otherwise. I sensed a presence. Someone in a wheelchair was right behind me. But who? I laughed at my own wishful thinking. Their identity was obvious. It was him. Shogun. Ignoring the red light entirely, I leapt into the crosswalk. Man, that red light's been there forever. My ears were assailed by a choir of horns, and one vehicle was on the brink of running me over before just barely managing to screech to a halt. But I couldn't look back now. I had to keep running as hard as I possibly could. Back to the crate. Back to the crate. Meanwhile, Kozue is still back there just dicing him up. Even though I made it back to my base, I was still haunted by the sound of those shutters. Moving to a nearby residential area hadn't helped either. Even though it had been entirely deserted, I could still hear the endless clicking and clacking of the shutters. It was as if they'd been seared into my very eardrums. How about the clicking and clacking of the thing Kozue gave you? Is that going to trigger you too? Every person I passed would take out their phone just to get a shot at me. Not one of them said, "Oh, wow, please let me shake your hand," or "ew," as I moved past them. No one even so much as grinned at me. Nothing but expressionless faces taking pictures with their cell phones. So I just continued to walk past them, pretending like they weren't even there. Clearly something strange was going on. I didn't sense even a hint of malice nor ill will from them. They felt entirely mechanical. Yeah, kind of like automata, except in this case there was someone actively controlling them. I sat in the corner of my room, legs gripped tightly against my chest as I curled up into a ball. All I could do was continue to grind my teeth out of sheer frustration. It was all him. It was all Shogun's doing. While en route to my base, I'd heard it. The sound of a creaking wheelchair. I'd only heard it once, and I hadn't turned around to check, but there was still no doubt in my mind. My hands just wouldn't stop trembling. Glancing at the time, I realized it was already 11 p.m. I'd spent 5 hours scared shitless. Now you know how Kozue feels. Letting out a deep sigh, I lashed out at him inside my mind. I hope you die, I hope you die, I hope you die, I hope you die. I hope Kozue found you when I ran away. The worst part about Shogun was that he didn't kill you quickly. He would gently wrap a silk cord around your neck, and over time he would slowly tighten that cord, before eventually you would suffocate. And because of that, because I knew exactly how he was, anxiety flared up within me, and I began to dread even going outside. Help me, Kozue. I can't fight Shogun on my own. I don't even have my own D-sword. There's nothing I can do. Kozue, why won't you help me? Get rid of all the mirrors in your crate, then she'll come by. I had to think. Somehow I had to come up with a way for Kozue to protect me. She could read my mind, so I definitely couldn't lie to her. What about money? Would she help me if I offered her compensation? This is what Psy'Min was talking about earlier. How are you going to incentivize this? Oh, you got to be kidding me. Really? How'd you get up here? That noise just now. With a horrible gulp, I squeezed myself into an even tighter ball and strained my ears for the slightest sound. I'd just hallucinated it. Yeah, that was the most obvious answer. Never mind. I hadn't hallucinated it. It was the sound of a wheelchair. I could hear it coming from outside. I immediately held my breath and strained my ears even harder, trying desperately to hear any noise coming through the wall. There it was. He was outside. Wait, maybe I was just imagining it. Maybe I was just... I just was imagining him slowly moving closer and closer to me. Nope, I wasn't just imagining it. He was wheeling around the outside of my container, just doing laps. I'd heard his voice. Oh, that was him. It was Shogun's laugh. Why are you here and why are you laughing? This has to be a delusion. Yeah, Shogun doesn't laugh. Also, he doesn't sound literally like you. He's quieter. He was laughing. In the dead of night, he was sitting outside my container in his creaky little wheelchair laughing. But it didn't end there. The very next second, what's next? Oh, I heard the sound of a cell phone's camera shutter. Had Shogun taken a picture? What had he taken a picture of? The container? Man, Takumi is like the most valuable Pokemon Go Pokemon ever. No, it wasn't just Shogun. There were other people there. And not just 2 or 3. It felt like there were at least 10. They were all taking pictures with their phones in perfect unison, the sounds of the shutters echoing off the walls and coiled into my ears. Don't worry, they'll run out of memory soon. This wasn't possible. A delusion like this was just that, a delusion. If I peeked outside, surely nobody would be there. It was all just some simple hallucination. Sure, the container walls were pretty thin, but there was still no way I should have been able to hear the shutters or the laughter or the wheelchair, and definitely not this clearly. I didn't have the courage to go outside and check for myself. Fear overwhelmed me. I burst into tears and wrapped a blanket around my head in an attempt to cover my ears. Don't come in. Don't come in. Don't come in. Well, you better lock the door. Don't come in. Don't come in. Don't come in. If you didn't lock the door and they come in, that's on you. Don't come in. 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 They didn't come in. How much time had passed? It had only been about 10 minutes, but it felt more like 10 hours. I threw off the blanket and got up as quietly as I possibly could. I listened very carefully. I didn't hear anything outside. All I could hear was the sound of my PC. So it really had just been a hallucination. Yeah, it had to have been. Just to be sure, though, I should check outside. There was no way anyone was out there, but still. Even if someone had been there, surely they wouldn't be there anymore. I positioned myself by the door. There was a padlock on the inside, keeping the door locked. Retrieving the key, I stuck it inside the padlock. You're just going to trigger it happening again, didn't you? But I didn't have it in me to turn the key that easily. Never mind. My heart was pounding out of my chest and my nerves refused to calm down. I was terrified. The mere thought of opening my door absolutely terrified me. This could have all just been some total bait. Someone could be outside right now, biding their time as they waited with bated breath for the opportune moment to strike. I wanted to tell myself that something like that would never happen to me, but it was pointless to even try. I've been deceived over and over again, and I couldn't take it anymore. I was so tired. Why couldn't I just be left alone? Why did I have to endure these horrible, absurd trials? They were just too much for me. Fuck. Oh, that's me. I slammed my fist into the door with a loud bang. The noise resounded incredibly loudly, and my hand immediately hurt like hell. Not a sound came from outside. There were no signs of anyone being there. There was nobody there. Of course there was nobody there. You'd have to be stupid to think there was someone there. I bit my lips so hard, blood slowly began oozing out. And with that, I somehow found the strength to remove the padlock, and then I slowly opened the door. Anytime the dialogue is like that with all these ellipses, it's never a good thing. Bloodbath? Oh, okay, another fake out. In an attempt to investigate, I peeked my head out from my base. There was nobody there. It was still as death. Nothing moved. There was no sign of Shogun's creaky wheelchair, nor his laugh, nor the cell phone camera shutters. Nothing. Is anyone there? You looking behind yourself and saying this means you lost the game, though, right? I waited for a moment, but there was still no response. But of course there wasn't. There was no one there, so of course nobody would reply to me. That was just common sense. Nervous as could be, I began to check even further outside, shifting my gaze toward any shadowy areas I could see. Yep, no one was there. Everything I'd heard, I'd hallucinated. All the repeated extreme stress had caused me to start breaking down. Yeah, that made perfect sense. I'd just gotten scared and ended up losing it. Look at me, tearing up. God, what an idiot. I can't believe how stupid I am. The sheer stress I was feeling left me trembling as I laughed at my own pathetic state. Mate, what is that? Is that a thumbs up? Is that a thumbs up emoji? Look at this dumbass. Oh, no, that's a pointing. That's an emoji pointing it at me. Why are you pointing at me? Look at this dumbass. Hey, you're the dumbass. It was laughable, really. I couldn't help but lol. I'm a lol at you. Man, I was so worn out. Don't you point your emoji at me. That's rude. Don't you know it's rude to point? Going back into my room, I let my Seratan figure soothe my soul. Next, I sat down at my PC and logged into Frappara. Okay, that's the first time we've heard of Frappara. That was where I checked for new updates in the Bloodtoon community. I could also see if my friends posted any status updates. What friends? A sense of dread was building within me. Something wasn't right. Oh? Spider? The list of my friends' statuses popped up on my display. None of it was from any friends whose names I typically saw. Oh. Look at the subjects. Spider. Whoever Spider is, I mean, listed as a friend for whatever. Oh, there's a. Are those the friends on the left? Human Flare, lol. Hazuki! Hazuki is literally on our friends list! Wait, what? Why is Frappara? Hazuki is right there. Hazuki is right there. I mean, okay, maybe that's just a list of people that are online right now, but I wonder if we should notice that. We should really notice that. I guess Grim was taken. But look at where Spider's been, man. He's been arriving at the site inside the rising elevator. Arrival wheelchair. I'm not sure where the elevator was. Maybe it was inside the store. Whatever it was called that I don't remember. Arrival wheelchair, beginning of the festival, commemorative photo. Starting to take the pictures. Rooftop nightscape, container wall, sink shower. Are these just the pictures they took? Stairs leading to rooftop. His appearance. They took a picture of us when we came outside of the crate. This is kind of freaky. The list of my friends' statuses popped up on my display. None of it was from any friends whose names I typically saw. Who the hell is Spider? The list had been bombarded with a single name posting over and over again in quick succession, burying all the other posts. Yeah, this is over the course of like 40 minutes. That friend's name being Spider. Did I even have a friend with that handle? Well, I'd be lying to myself if I said I knew all my friends. I had over 100 of them, so it'd be stupid to make that claim. Okay, so just people that have become mutual acquaintances online. It looked like Spider had written about 15 entries in the past 30 minutes or so. 40! Yeah, look at those subject lines. Those are interesting, aren't they? Arrival at site. Beginning of the festival was they had a festival on our rooftop. The Take Pictures of Everything festival. When I saw the titles of the posts, I gulped. Before I knew it, my throat had gone completely dry. For one reason or another, I was struck with an immense sense of déjà vu. When I saw the titles, I had a feeling that I knew exactly what the contents would be. Pictures! With trembling fingers, I moved the mouse and clicked on one of the entries. Yep. This has to be the front of this very building. The poster contained a single image, and by the looks of it, it had been taken by a cell phone. There was no text, nor anything else in the post, just the image. There was no doubt that this photo was of the Kurenai conference hall. It seemed to have been taken at night, too. That can't be right. It was just my mind playing tricks on me. I forced a dry smile as I clicked on another post. We're just going to go through them in order. Next should be the elevator. Never mind, we're going to skip to that. Yeah, there's no way. Despite me crying out in disbelief, even if I could have predicted what was to come just by reading the title. And you should have. And yet the horror gave rise to countless goosebumps across my skin, each bump like a stewing bubble of sheer dread. Those noises. They'd just been hallucinations, hadn't they? Afraid not. The sound of the wheelchair, the sound of Shogun's laughter, the sound of cell phone shutters. Had those sounds actually been real? Had someone actually been outside my base until only a short while ago, taking pictures and uploading them with their phone? The latest post was titled, The Man of the Hour. Wasn't it just the man? Yeah, the man appears. It'll be a picture of us looking outside our crate, right? When we looked outside and said no one was there. The timestamp read 12:14, and right now it was 12:21. Their latest status update had been only 7 minutes ago. It's not real. It can't be real. Click on it. It's a picture of you in the door. Who was the man of the hour supposed to be? Who the hell could it be? Who do you think? I really didn't want to look. But I just couldn't bear not to. I'd never been able to calm down otherwise. Oh, you're not going to be able to calm down once you see it either. I quickly snapped my gaze to the door and back. I had to make absolutely sure the lock was on correctly. I don't see this lock, by the way. I don't think you guys did separate artwork for when it's locked and not locked. And right after I did that, scared as I could be, I clicked the latest status update. Sure enough, it was a picture of me. Just a moment ago, I had opened the door to see who was there. I thought nobody was out there, but someone had been outside. Oh, just cut to black? Oh, don't even show me the picture. So I'm going to assume that's Sua because the handle was Spider. So, presumably Darth Spider? I mean, Hazuki was in the list too. Clearly they're just friends with Takumi on all his social media, so why the hell not, right? Almost certainly was Sua. I'm just going to assume it was until proven otherwise. The one halting her was a classmate of hers, Ninomiya Minako. That's an interesting name. The one halting her. Are we back to Kozue? We are indeed. Oh no! Don't have a mirror! Kozue winced at the clear animosity laced in her words. Moreover, Minako was not the only one there. 5 girls stood behind Minako, lying in wait. All of them were her classmates, but Kozue was unable to recall their names and faces. I hope I'm saying Minako right. Minako? Minako? Minako. I'm going to call it Minako. Well, Minako. Let's go with Minako. Yeah, I knew you wouldn't mind, so, you coming? It's time for your daily beating. As she remained unresponsive and unsure of what to do, Kozue's quivering shoulders were then shoved, not by Minako, but by one of the other girls behind her. Come on, say something! Well, you took on 3 girls before it. Now it's time for 6. You're gonna cause her to get out the sword. You're gonna cause her to go full psycho. You should really leave Kozue. Don't provoke the Kozue. Whoops. I skipped over that. Feeling entrapped by the crowd of girls, tears began pouring from the corners of her eyes. Her captors were quick to take notice, growing even further agitated. Oh, give me up. There's no way you're fucking crying. Just come on already. She refused to go with them, for she had a horrible feeling about the events to come. But when they grabbed her by both arms, she knew that she no longer had a choice in the matter. They brought her out to the rooftop. 10 more girls were waiting up there. Holy shit. Hey, you guys ever played Dynasty Warriors? Nope, you guys are... either this is going to be a bad time for Kozue or a bad time for the rest of you. We'll have to see. 10 more girls were waiting up there. Nearly everyone was a classmate of hers. When she realized this truth, Kozue was left deeply confused. All the girls from class. Our class. I mean, that's got to be at least half the class. Kozue could predict very well what would happen from this moment. She could acutely feel the intense malice directed at her from those present. Kozue shook in fear from the sheer amount of negative delusions flowing into her. Despite her best efforts to endure, her tears simply would not stop flowing. Is she crying already? Whoa, really? You can't be serious? Yes, Kozue is crying. Tears.
They're not for him.
Even though Kozue had only just transferred to this school, her peers held nothing back in their barrage of insults. Of course, she was well aware of the bitter hatred the girls felt for her. Try as she might to block out their inner voices in the classroom, the utter animosity they held was not something she had been able to ignore. But despite such contempt, nobody had ever approached her in this manner before. She tried to run, but being surrounded by so many of her classmates left her no route to escape with. You ain't going anywhere. Minako's trying to talk to you here, and you're gonna listen. Prompted by her classmate's threat, Minako glared toward Kozue with intense hatred. Minako's demeanor was that of a tall, rigid model, providing a heavy contrast to Kozue's small, petite frame. Now listen here, Orihara. Keep your whore-ass eyes off my Dasuke. Got it? I don't think she really cares about Mizumi, guys. I'm not even sure why you care about Mizumi, but you know what? You can have him. Is this actually his girlfriend? Because the fact that his girlfriend is in their class, she really should be talking to him more. Especially with the conversations we get up to with him, out loud. Despite them talking as if she should have known it, the name Dasuke was not one she was familiar with. Okay, so she doesn't even know Mizumi's last name. But these words that would defend her would never leave her mouth. She simply made herself small, shrinking to the ground in order to withstand the fierce chaos and confusion. You hear me, bitch? Cut the bullshit. I know you're trying to get your hands on my boyfriend. To be fair, your boyfriend gets his hands on everyone else, but... Kozue frantically shook her head in denial. She had no recollection of this person at all. Then she at last realized that the person they spoke of was her classmate Mizumi. If that truly was who they were referring to, then Kozue never had any intention of leering at him. In truth, it was quite the opposite. Her entirely overt ulterior motives... It was quite the opposite. His entirely overt ulterior motives were nothing but a source of vexation to her, no doubt. Nobody likes you. You know that, right? You've been a real pain in the ass ever since you got here. Hey, why ain't you talking? You trying to act cute or some shit? I told you, she's totally fucking with us. Disgusting shit stain. Or could it be you've got no problem talking to boys, but you haven't got the slightest interest in talking to us? Or are you just on the goddamn mood, whore? Have you seen her talk to anybody? She talks to nobody. She doesn't talk. Say something, you ugly bitch! I mean, they know you can talk because you keep making noises. They pulled her hair, they struck her face, they shoved her shoulders. This rooftop is about to turn into a blender. And people are going to wonder how come half the class isn't showing up anymore. And then they're going to come upstairs and find a 6-inch puddle. There was no escape. They would not let her. Bullying, beating up. Kozue shuddered in fear as those words floated through her mind. Save me, Senna-shan! Save me, Takumi-shan! Okay, maybe Senna will run up here and lay the beat. Senna does not need her sword to beat the ever-loving tar out of you 10. Her inner voice cried out, but it was clear that help would not arrive anytime soon. Before she had even moved here to Tokyo, this was how it had always been. No matter how much Kozue wished for someone to help her, it would never come. She had no choice but to bear it. If it were only this much, she could bear it. But that thought was just as transient as the last. Now what? What's that noise? From somewhere she could not quite discern, a noise faintly began to echo. The faces of her classmates immediately lost all expression. Each and every one of them reached into their jacket pockets in unison. Oh, well, I mean, if we needed evidence... Any money says they've got mirrors in their pockets, and any money says that's a rucksack. The question again is why? What is the motivation? Why are they trying to break Kozue even more? And then, as if they had all planned it beforehand, they all slowly retrieved something from within them. Each person had a mirror. Yep. Mirrors of all manner of shapes and sizes. Simultaneously, each and every girl turned the surfaces of their mirrors toward Kozue. It was like a cult performing a ritual. Within each mirror, Kozue could be seen stricken with the utmost terror, each silver screen reflecting a girl with eyes convulsing uncontrollably. Who are you? Who are you? The nightmares that had once plagued Kozue began to resurface. She was losing the self she knew. She could not stop trembling. We're getting a lot of this kind of... Well, I guess this is appropriate for Kozue's path, all this chatter in the background. She shook her head violently in denial. Her eyes wandered between each mirror. As her head shuddered and shook, the convulsions seizing her eyes continued. No! Kozue tried to scream, but could only muster a feeble cry. Oh! Oh! Oh, I thought that was just the sky. Yeah, I was about to say, she's blacking out. This is not a good sign. She's going to go into that blender mode I was mentioning before. She's whirlwind spec. You guys are done. I'll kill you, 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 I'll kill you! The dominance of dark, sickly delusions began to enshroud her mind. Yeah, Mizumi's about to be very single. She then became cognizant of the D-sword clutched tightly in her hands. A faint beam of red light shone across the blade. Does that mean she's real booting it? Flickering with a delightful shriek. Not a hint of its brutality was left concealed. Its mere aura fiercely intimidated all those who beheld it. Everything before it fell to ruin. Everything before it was consumed. Everything before it returned to nothing. And now, as it settled, her sword resided not in delusion, but in reality. Does that mean she's done? Just like that? Or is she about to start? I can't tell. Her once expressionless classmates awakened from their trance, greatly alarmed by what was unfolding, as you should be. But by then, it was far too late. Not even psycho, just pain. Tears pouring down her cheeks. Look at her sword. It is definitely real booted. I think that might even be the first time we've seen it with the red highlights. Tears pouring down her cheeks, Kozue let out a scream. Her eyes could no longer see. With a single step, Kozue staggered forward. Yep. Effortlessly, she raised the D-sword above her head. At the present moment, it was Minako who was in her path. What came next would be appropriately referred to as an immediate bisection. If I could describe the events that happened immediately following the swinging of the sword, I would classify it, technically speaking, as an immediate bisection. From the left arm to the right shoulder, her body was ripped apart. See, this is why bullying is bad. In regard to what had happened to the girl, the word slash would have been far too disingenuous. Splash, maybe. Sickeningly extreme amounts of blood burst forth from her body. As she raised the D sword aloft, this time Kozue staggered backward. It was as if the sword itself had drawn her back. Her body moved about adroitly, almost as if it were dancing. Despite her remarkably petite frame, she swung the gigantic sword about with incredible ease. Are you going to take out all of them, or are they just going to... I mean, at least one of them is going to get away, right? There's over 10 of them. Or maybe not. Despite being far past death, Minako's corpse was further desecrated in obscene acts of violence. Never mind, we're not going to hack everyone. We're just going to hack this one over and over again. All right, girls, make fun of me now. How about I get whatever boyfriend I want? How about that? The freshly spilt blood danced in the air, along with Kozue and her sword, dyeing the concrete crimson. Kozue, sapped of any remaining strength, collapsed seconds later, in unison with what had used to be Minako. She was sobbing her heart out, the tears forcing her eyes to remain closed. Faced with that horrific display, her classmates stared in a daze, their mouths hanging agape. Not a single one moved from where they stood. See, this is how you handle bullying. Check with Google, and Google says a certain thing. Check with Bing, it says this. It was as if they could no longer comprehend what had just occurred. Swaying slowly, Kozue returned to her feet. Who else wants some? Holy! How come all the girls are covered in blood in all these side stories? I thought you knew how to shield yourself from that with your sword. Clearly, we were a little too out of it to bother this time. Yeah, that's going to leave some evidence. Her head hung low as convulsive sobs assailed her. How are you going to talk your way out of this one? Pointed directly at her petrified classmates, blood trickled from her D-sword. I'll kill you. Well, the very next moment, innumerable shrieks ripped through the air before disappearing into the sky forever. Kozue is very good at Dynasty Warriors. Well, what's the aftermath of that gonna be? Walking as fast as I could, I headed directly for school. This might be a good time to check the minimum attendance schedule and stay home, my guy. I kept my eyes out for anyone at all. If someone even dared to approach me, I'd run away as fast as I possibly could. Good news! The percentage of DQNs in Shibuya has dipped significantly. I'd been hyperventilating for forever now, wheezing again and again, my throat desperately gasped for air. The sweat beaded endlessly on my forehead. No matter how much I wiped it away, it just kept coming. I was just going to school so I could get Kozue to help with whatever the hell this was. You know, if Kozue had your help, maybe certain things wouldn't have happened. I needed her to fight the bastards that were trying to break me. Kozue would definitely do it. Oh, she would. She was completely broken herself after all. Confirmed. I wanted to kill them. Shogun and his cronies needed to fucking die. There was no doubt in my mind that the people at my base yesterday had been Shogun and his underlings. I mean, Kazumi's going to jail, right? There's no way she's getting out of this one. Even if, I mean, she was covered in blood. How's she leaving? How's she gonna deal with that? They were finally cutting the bullshit, and now they were gunning to finish the job. They targeted me, begun their extensive mission to wear me down, and now they were moving in to kill me in the sickest, vilest, most disgusting way they could possibly imagine. I couldn't take it. I didn't want to die, so I had to kill them before they killed me. God, how many wheelchairs do you guys have? That sound again! Yesterday I heard the exact same creaking sound behind me. I whipped around, wincing in anticipation of what might come, and yet not a soul was behind me. There was no wheelchair in sight. It couldn't have been a hallucination. I'd heard it right fucking behind me. Was Shogun still attacking me? Someone with a rucksack is attacking you. I do find it interesting that I'm pretty sure that first guy with the rucksack we saw, the one that kind of got Nanami to walk into traffic, I believe he was holding a camera. I could be wrong. I broke into a mad dash. No way in hell was I going to stand all around all alone. Get out of rucksack range. And yet, it followed me. The sound clung tightly to my back. I could hear it distinctly behind me as I ran. How's Kozue going to kill a sound effect? Stop it! Get away! Stop chasing me! Don't look at me! I was about to snap. I no longer had the stomach to take another look behind me. I stumbled my way to the school gate. The bell still hadn't rung yet. I was on the verge of being tardy, but I could see other students still here and there. Just looking at another person was enough to make me flinch. But if I didn't go into the building, I wouldn't be able to find Kozue. How are you going to feel when you find her covered in blood? Steeling myself, I entered the school grounds, and a bunch of people ran out screaming. Or we'll just have pictures taken. When I heard something once again. But it wasn't a wheelchair this time, it was a cell phone shutter. My gaze shot all around myself. Who the hell? Who'd taken that photo? Nobody was looking at me. Nobody had a cell phone out. Ah, what the fuck? What the fucking fuck? I covered my ears, and without looking where I was going, I bolted. You're about to pull a Kozue. Never mind. Without stopping even once, I finally made it to the classroom. Boy, it was really empty for some reason. I was about to burst into the room, only to frantically stop dead in my tracks and turn right back around. The class DQNs were all assembled in there. The male ones. The second my eyes had met one of them, I'd given up completely on going in. God damn it. This world was plagued with my enemies. Every single person was my enemy. All of you should die. Every fucking last one of you should just die. Takumi and Kozue are going to go on a natural-born killers by the end of this thing. Since I couldn't go in the room, I opted to just turn around and keep walking. Maybe a delusion or two about massacring those DQN pieces of shit would cheer me up. Or you could go to the actual massacre. I'd only glanced in the room, but I hadn't seen Kozue. Actually, there hadn't been any girls in the classroom at all. Yeah, imagine that. For some reason, no girls were in there, huh? That was pretty strange, actually, but I still couldn't care less. All I cared about was figuring out where the hell Kozue had wandered off to. Of all times for her to completely disappear on me, it just had to be now. I was still wheezing from before, my breath violently forcing itself in and out of my lungs. When they saw me like that, the other students walking down the hall stopped and stared. I'd been jogging. Come on, don't look at me. Don't take pictures of me especially. That's sound again. Looking back, I saw 4 DQN guys that I hadn't noticed before. They all had their biggest smirks on their faces, each one of their cell phones trained on me. Don't look at me. Ignore them. Kozue can just kill them later on. A delusion like that sounded so exhilarating. Every last one of them dying a horrible death. I'd have enough of this world. You know, you're delusioning that now, but when you see what Kozue gets up to, we'll see if you still think it's a good idea in reality. Kozue still was nowhere to be found. I had no clue where she was. She's trying to get the blood out. Maybe she just hadn't come to school today? But if that was the case, then what was I supposed to do? I really doubted I could fend off Shogun's attempts to break me, especially for a whole day. I've been pretending to be tough inside my head this whole time, but my knees were still shaking uncontrollably, and if I didn't stay focused for even 1 second, I'd literally sink to the floor and stay there. Kozue, where did you go? Where the hell did you go? Please, just save me. There we go. I was wondering if he would hear her crying out for help. Startled, I stopped dead in my tracks. I'd heard a voice in my head that had felt like it'd come from right next to me, someone's inner voice. It's not Kozue's fault. It's really, really not Kozue's fault. It kind of is exclusively Kozue's fault. Help! I might go for an insanity plea, though. Kozue, where are you? I mean, I don't blame you for retaliating for what they did, but you still kind of sliced up 10 people. Looking around, I saw Kozue squatting down near a corner by the entrance, cradling her head. Okay, well, she got off the roof. The moment I saw her, a gasp forced its way from my mouth. Yeah, you're covered in blood. Her entire body was a deep crimson, as if waves of red from an ocean of blood had crashed down upon her. How did you get down here without being seen? No, it wasn't simply as if. She was undeniably covered in a ridiculous amount of blood. I wanted to scream, but my voice had stopped working. Kozue! Say something, Kozue! When I called out to her with my inner voice, Kozue slowly raised her head. Tears were flooding from her eyes, leaving them red and congested. Yep. And now we're covered in blood, too. Takumi-san! Without getting up from the ground, she grabbed onto my shirt. She clung to me as if her life depended on it. What are you... Takumi-san, are you Kazupi's enemy? Or her friend? I do not recommend that you say that you're her enemy. That immediate bisection sounded painful. What's that supposed to mean? Aw, poor girl. I tried to ask again, but she just buried her face in my chest and shook her head from side to side. She's just trying to wipe the blood off herself, that's all. The reddish-black blood coating her entire body seeped into my uniform and slowly spread through it. Well, now we have some explaining to do. I never realized how small Kozue truly was. Her body was so fragile it felt like I might break it at any moment. Only when I'd embraced her did I finally come to realize this. Yes, I'm your friend, Kozue. Is she just going to talk us into a killing spree and that's how her ending ends? That's why I came to you, for help. I only said what was on my mind. I was being fairly selfish, but Kozue was the only one I could turn to. You know what? I won't lie, she's effective. You know those Facebook posts where they put up 6 pictures or 9 pictures or whatever? They're like, pick one that has to defend you from the other 5. Okay, Kozue, I pick you to defend me from the other girls. You won't be a bully to Kozue? Not seeing what happened to the other bullies, no. I'm not going to be a bully to you. The guys bullying me are my main concern. That's what's most important here anyway. I need your protection. But Kozue can't protect Takumi-san, you know? What do you mean? You have a D-sword. And you're very good at using it. But, I can't handle him very well anymore. Huh? Him? What, your D-sword? Does your D-sword have a name? As I asked that inside my head, Kozue nodded. She then nestled further into me. So that's why, Takumi-san, all that bing-bang crashy stuff, none of it was Kazupi's fault. Are we going to have a vision of what happened upstairs? Whoa, yeah. Without warning, I was hit with a fierce impact. Images burst into my mind like an intense montage of flashbacks. Not my fault! The school, its rooftop, the fierce, rusty smell of blood, a sea of blood, endless chunks of meat strewn across the concrete, disconnected, disjointed hunks of flesh I couldn't identify, and Kozue standing in the middle of it all, her breathing heavy, and a D-sword in her hand. Not my fault! I cut up all the girlies, it wasn't me. Chunks of DQ in her everywhere, it wasn't me. I then snapped back to myself, shocked. What the hell was that? That had definitely been the school rooftop, it wasn't me. But what were all those images? Had they just been a delusion? But they've been different from how my delusions usually were. Maybe it hadn't been my delusion, but Kazupi's? I felt like Sen had said something about how gigalomaniacs can make other people see their negative delusions, so maybe that was what had happened. But placing that aside for now, Kazupi's blood-stained body clung to me. The blood on her was still wet. There were no signs that she'd been hurt, so it's not her blood. Where'd she get it from? And she certainly wasn't acting like she had been. Therefore, the blood wasn't hers. I was trying my absolute hardest to conjure up an explanation for the amount of blood she was bathed in. There was nothing normal about this. It was utterly insane. I was about to say, when it comes to reality, are you going to be still interested in that kill everyone idea? Whose blood was this exactly? We should have asked that about Ayase when we saw her covered in blood. And Rimi's and Nanami's D-swords lying nearby. Kazupi, whose blood is this? It's from the baddies who were being bullies to me. Kazupi hung her head. All her sprites had been redone, just colored red. Kazupi hung her head. She gently detached from me, then looked away as if she was in trouble. It wasn't me. She raised her index finger to her lips. To me, it looked like she was sulking about something, or like she was lapping up the blood on her finger. Isn't that someone else's blood? Yeah, it's someone else's blood. A feeling of dread surged up within me. Kozue, if that really is the case, you went way, way too far, didn't you? I told you I'm whirlwind spec. I did my raid rotations. The school bell rang loudly, telling us homeroom had started. There wasn't a single sign of any students around us. They had all already gone to class, or possibly to heaven. And so I made up my mind and began to head straight for the classroom. No, Kozue needs you. Also, you need to change, buddy. Trying my best to not get caught, I stealthily peeked in from the window. What? And what I saw left me shocked. Homeroom had already started, with the teacher standing at the front of the room. And just like I'd seen before, not a single girl was present inside the classroom. No way. I had to be sure. I had to be absolutely sure that it had all just been a delusion. Time to run up to the rooftop. Kozue gonna try to stop you. You don't want to go up there, you really don't. I took off for the roof, then flung up open the door leading to it. Off in the distance, you hear in the background, "It wasn't me!" The first thing to hit me was the somber blue sky, and the next was the not blue. Yeah, the color that was crimson and not blue. A literal sea of blood. Remember how Psy'Min said there was going to be a 6-inch puddle? Psy'Min was not exaggerating. Yeah, you're going to need to hit the shoe store on the way home. When hit with the remains of that horrifying scene, the psychological revulsion, the utter repulsiveness, and the overpowering stench, it all pooled together, and I could no longer keep the contents of my stomach from emptying across the concrete. Well, good job leaving your DNA evidence there. Takumi-san, you're Kozue's friend, aren't you? Okay, Takumi, say yes. You don't want the alternative. I jumped. When I turned around, Kozue was standing right in front of me. Tears were welling up in the corner of her eyes, still soaked in blood. She turned to me and smiled an innocent smile. Yeah, see, when confronted with the idea of killing everyone in real life, you're having a different reaction, as I thought you might. Not a natural-born killer, then. I couldn't help but run away. I was afraid of Kozue for smiling in that situation, for killing them so brutally. I couldn't comprehend it. The people that had been there weren't people anymore. I'm going to start an Ashura in Guild Wars 2 and make it a warrior and call it Kozue. Great sword all the way, baby. They were in pieces, and she'd done that to them. The scene on the rooftop had been burned into my mind and refused to leave. It repeated endlessly, looping over and over again in my head, and each time it did, I was hit with the most intense feelings of nausea. I lost count of how many times I dry-heaved. I ran all around the school with no real destination in mind. Homeroom had already started, so there was no one in the halls. Kozue wasn't following me, and even if she were, she wouldn't keep up because her legs are tiny. Also, I'm not going to homeroom. I'm covered in blood. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Was running away the smart thing to do, or should I have stayed there with her? If Kozue saw me as an enemy because I'd run away, would I be fucked? If she'd started thinking of me as an enemy, would she tear me to pieces like she had with those girls on the rooftops? Oh, God, no, please no. This game is either, or this ending, I should say. This ending is either going to end with us and Kozue making up and getting together, because that's how these endings always work, or her literally just killing us out of a misunderstanding. We need to die in one of these endings, right? They can't all be happy. But if that were true, what should I have done? Even if I went back to Kozue now, I'd have no idea what to do or say. Figures it would be the Kozue route that we die in. I just kept on running and running, almost tripping every couple seconds. And the very next corner I went around, I very nearly ran right into two people. They're going to have questions. Oh, especially that one. It was Mizubi-kun, together with one of the DQNs from my class who made fun of me earlier. Mizubi's wondering what happened to all his girlfriends. He's got nobody to flirt with. He looked at me with clear unease, while the DQN stepped in front of me, blocking my path. The DQN had the most malicious grin on his face. Oh, what's up, Esper? Hey, I'm curious about your powers. You're in the mood to give me a little demonstration? You should really be taking the blood all over me as a warning, my guy. I bit my lip. I didn't make eye contact. If I did, I knew I'd get punched right then and there. The DQN made no moves to take out his cell phone. If he did, however, I very well might have lost it and killed him, just like how Kozue had with those girls. You don't have a sword yet. Seems like a few girls from our class decided to ditch. They haven't come back, and we're out on the prowl looking for them. Well, I might have an idea. But really, don't you think this shit's a total waste of time? Mizumi here is worried about Minako or whatever, but she's the bitch who decided to ditch us. You agree with me, don't you, Esper, eh? Well, you don't have to worry about Minako anymore. She's gone to a better place. I didn't respond, and as a result, a sharp pain ran through me as he kicked me in the hip. Don't ignore me, bitch! Hey, knock it off. I was wondering if Mizumi would stand up for us. The second Mizumi-kun spoke up, the DQN stopped dead in his tracks. Taku, have you seen Minako? Minako? I think I was going to say Minako. She was here before the bell went off. I've been calling and texting her, but she's not responding. Well, I'm going to tell you guys what. If the cafeteria lunch today is meatloaf, just say no. I couldn't tell him. I couldn't tell him about the tragedy that had happened on the rooftop. Somebody's going to find out. Somebody's going to go up there. Because that's what people do in all these Japanese animes or whatever. They hang out on the roof. Someone is going to go up there to have some lunch or something, and they are going to lose their appetite. I have no idea who Minako was, but I assume she was Mizumi-kun's girlfriend. Could she have been among the tattered pieces of meat scattered across the rooftop? And what about Rimi? Did Kozue kill her too? She shouldn't have. Rimi had been missing for a while, and she hadn't been at school either. Really? I couldn't believe I was still worrying about her after everything that had happened. What the hell was I even expecting her to do? She was never going to come back anyway, so what was even the point? Hey! Esper! Why is there blood on your clothes? Yeah, that question came way too late. A shudder ran through me. It was blood from when Kozue had clung to me. It had transferred from her onto me, and now it fully covered the edge of my shirt. Well, people are going to remember that when they find the rooftop, aren't they? Mizumi-kun's eyes widened and he gasped. Taku, what the hell happened? Some of this might be your girlfriend, actually. Nothing. Nothing. It's fine. The second that left my mouth, I whipped around and ran away as fast as I could. I heard a voice calling after me, but I ignored it. No, I have a feeling we're going to take the fall for this. Damn you and your hug, Kozue. I bolted down the stairs. And pulled a Kozue. But in my chaotic frenzy, I lost my footing and tumbled all the way down to the landing. As I lay there on the ground, I lost all will to stand back up again. Would I ever be able to find peace again? Why did all these insane, horrific things keep happening to me one after the other? Yeah, I was gonna actually wonder if Kozue had caught up to us. But actually, that doesn't sound like her. That sounds maybe like Rimi. A voice called my name. I only knew a single girl that called me that. Oh yeah, also that. I slowly, timidly looked up and saw a hand stretched out before me. Okay, well, for whatever reason that you decided to show up on school today, I guess we might get that one-on-one fight that I joked about earlier. What's going on? I've never seen you in such a hurry. Does it hurt anywhere? It was Rimi. Rimi was here. Boy, are you lucky that you're not on the rooftop. Rimi, I felt tears starting to well up. Not wanting to embarrass myself, I fought them back and took the hand she was offering me. It was so very warm. Rimi pulled me to my feet. Rimi, can I borrow your blazer? Are you sure you're okay? That was a pretty bad fall. Hey, I'm not Kozue. She brushed off my clothes, not leaving a single spot on me untouched. Well, now her hands are covered in blood. Rimi, where were you? Where had she been for all this time? Why hadn't she contacted me? She said she'd protect me. Oh, me? I may or may not have been tardy today. That doesn't explain why you haven't showed up at our crate, though. Yeah, that doesn't answer my question. But when I saw that confused, airheaded smile of hers, my fear ever so slightly subsided. That smile had saved my life many times before. And when I saw it, I no longer had any need to ask her where she'd been or what she'd been doing. I didn't need to ask her why she hadn't contacted me, although you really, really, really ought to. Remy had come back to me. And everything would be okay now. No matter what enemy I might come to face, Remy would protect. Don't think of Kozue as your enemy. A blood-stained 4-foot twig of a girl is going to appear at the top of the staircase, and she's just going to say, "What'd you think about me?" And Remy's going to be like, "Oh shit." Or would she? Would she truly protect me? Had Kozue really just so happened to not kill Remy? A flicker of doubt appeared in the corner of my mind. It rose up in me like a passing thought. She had been absent for all this time, but she just so happened to come back today? And then she just so happened to be late to school on the day she just so happened to come back? To be fair, it had nothing to do with her being late or not late. Remy wouldn't have gone on the roof to bully Kozue anyway. And then Kozue had just so happened to commit murder on the same day Remy had just so happened to come in late? No, don't think about it. Stay positive. Stay positive. I rubbed my temples with my fingers, trying to calm myself down. Yeah, there are footsteps. I hear footsteps coming. Kazupi's on the way. You don't look so hot. Here, let me take you to the nurse's office. You can rest up a bit in there. As she said that, Remy pulled me by my hand. I mean, those footsteps are still coming. I assume it's Kozue. Maybe it's not Kozue. She's taken more than 5 steps without falling over, so I don't think it's her. Come on, let's go. Did Remy not know about the tragedy that had happened on the rooftop? I don't think anybody knows but you so far. But wasn't that only natural? She had said she'd been tardy today. Well, nobody else knows either. Mizumi-kun and the DQN don't know either. And the fact that she didn't dare ask about the blood on my clothes was just her being considerate to me. It had to be. What was with the running sound effect? Well, I did say this episode was going to go pretty ham at the beginning, and I did not lie, did I? But next time is going to be the big finale, and it is going to go even further. We're not done yet, so stick around. I will see you then. Take care.